I'm CJ Wellerman, and in this episode, we reveal how Israel's genocidal activities in Gaza are inextricably tied to Israel's unique enthusiasm for sexual violence. But first, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our show. Let's get into it. Thanks to a new report by the Associated Press, the world now knows that almost everything Israel has said about October 7th is a fabricated and concocted lie, meant only to provide the Zionist state political cover for its atrocities in Gaza. Tragically, however, these lies perform their intended job, because bogus allegations of Hamas mass raping Israeli women ran 24/7 around the world for months on end, which in turn juiced America and Europe's tolerance for Israel's campaign of terror in Gaza and the West Bank. Which means every major news publication that laundered these lies has the blood of murdered Palestinian children on their hands. The New York Times, BBC, CNN, and all the rest are now complicit in genocide. And this moral stain should follow every editor and publisher to his grave. For they have fallen for a trick Zionists learnt from the Nazis, to accuse your enemy of the very thing that you're guilty of doing to him. In other words, every Zionist allegation is a confession of wrongdoing. And in this case, no country is more guilty of sexual violence and criminality than the State of Israel. In fact, the Jewish state has been widely described a safe haven for pedophiles, having enacted laws that allow Jewish sex offenders to live freely in the occupied Palestinian territories, where they are free to commit their evil deeds. Even the right-wing Jerusalem Post agrees with this damning indictment, as does an English-speaking Israeli television network.
First of all, I'm very sad to say that Israel is a country which has a pandemic of sexual violence. You can ask various questions why. Some of them can be answered as being a very conservative society. Still, parts of the country are conservative. We are a militaristic society, and that influences the way men treat women. And
more than 250 women are raped every day in a country whose total population is less than 9 million people, making Israel officially the rape capital of the Middle East, with the Palestinians, of course, their biggest victim. The data tells a shocking story, with underage girls accounting for nearly 50% of reported sexual abuse cases, while 92% of rape investigations are closed without charges laid, and as 75% of convicted sex offenders are released from prison early. Zionism is to blame for this sickness, a depravity that has perverted every level of Israeli society, especially among the country's armed forces, as witnessed in Gaza for the past
big
8
up
months.
yourself. Big
While
up.
committing genocide and killing more than 10,000 women, Israeli soldiers have routinely dressed in the clothing of their female victims and then proudly shared the pictures with friends and family members on.
Yo, look at this shit here. You know why I show this shit here, people? Because they're not showing this stuff here on the internet, right? But yet and still, I mean, Puff Daddy freak-offs is all over. They have a whole entire country. Y'all seen this, people? A whole entire country that's on freak-off. That's in freak-off mode 24/7. But you don't hear nothing about this shit here.
Social media, because for Zionists, this is totally normal and acceptable behavior. Here, 2 soldiers pose for the camera as they sit in the bed of a young girl they had killed earlier that same day, while their comrades rummage through the bedrooms of Palestinian women in search of their underwear and personal items.
דבר ראשון,
נמצא ראשון,
יפה, נמצא שני,
כל נפש מחבלים
לבן, כמו שצריך,
מחבלים ארורים.
ממש, כותנה, כמו שצריך, מוכן.
החבר'ה פה כמו שאתה רואה שבוזים.
Souvenirs they collecting.
חבר'ה תהיו רגועים, אל תדאגו שומרים עליכם.
Zionists are so shameless about their sex crimes that Israeli soldiers taunt Arab girls on the internet, saying they will stop killing Palestinians if they undress for the camera.
I'll tell you what, if you show me I won't kill any more Palestinian kids.
You killed 25 kids, like you're proud of that?
If you love Palestinians, you'll show me.
This is what happens when you
Crazy,
establish
yo.
a nation state on stolen land and then kill, dispossess and displace its indigenous population. And this is the kind of sexual violence Israel has dished out to Palestinians for decades. Because when we talk about Zionism, we are talking about an ethno-nationalist
How come we
ideology
don't be here?
that
How come we
promotes
don't hear nothing
racism,
about this type
toxic
of stuff here?
masculinity, and militarization. All the key ingredients that underpin every
All we hear
fascist
about
movement.
is Diddy
You
and
see,
the black
Israeli
man.
military has long used rape and sexual assault as a weapon of war against Palestinians. Soldiers routinely sexually harass women at military checkpoints and detention centers in the occupied territories, while ordinary Jewish civilians wear T-shirts that encourage shooting pregnant Palestinian women because you get 2 kills for 1 shot. This constant dehumanization results in sexual atrocities and the violent interrogation of innocent Palestinian women like this. This is happening in Gaza right now. Even the United Nations has accused Israel of raping and sexually assaulting Palestinian women in the midst of this genocide. These women, along with eyewitnesses, describe harrowing experiences in which they are forcibly stripped, blindfolded, assaulted, brutalized and raped by Israeli soldiers who raided their homes and murdered their husbands. Here's testimony from Amina Hussein, who was kidnapped by Israeli soldiers on the 28th of December and held hostage for 6 weeks.
غششوني على ساحة على غرفة كبيرة كتير كانت اتفاجئ ان كل البنات مشلحات الاسيرات كلهم مشلحات يعني انا بعد ما طلعت من الغرفة البنات بيقولوا لي ليش بتطلع قلت لهم انا بطلع انا اتفاجئت انه كلنا مشلح.
So, while Israel is inventing stories of Jewish women being raped by Hamas, Israeli soldiers are actually raping and sexually assaulting female Palestinian hostages. That the media is now silent about this, even after the Associated Press debunked Israel's bogus allegations, is yet another painful illustration of how Israel has trained Western media outlets to believe the inverse of reality, that down is up, black is white, and day is night. Because no matter what crime Palestinians are subjected to, they are never allowed to be the victim. The Western media has reserved victimhood for Israelis,
Exactly,
even when they commit genocide
Moko.
and rape. Call it Holocaust.
So you see, they use Diddy's situation like Diddy now to distract us now from what's really going on. I mean, you know, they talk, I mean, a Diddy party could never come anywhere close to this stuff here. But no one is talking about it. You know what I'm saying? No one is putting these dudes up and saying, yo, you know, try them for war crimes or none of this stuff here. You know, this is way more newsworthy than anything that's going on with Diddy, right? But you ain't hearing nothing about this right here. And this is horrific stuff right here. You know what I'm saying?
Guilt, call it Zionist manipulation, call it what you will. But with that said, CNN deserves some credit here, despite its shameful track record of whitewashing Israeli crimes. 2 weeks ago, it revealed an insight into Israel's torture chambers, where thousands of innocent Palestinian men, women and children are held, a horror that even Israeli human rights activists are now protesting against.
At the Sedi Taman facility in southern Israel, we joined human rights activists amid growing public concern for the detainees being held inside. This is a protest by Israeli citizens outside a detention centre close to Gaza, where we know hundreds of Palestinians have been held. You can see it's a closed military facility. It's behind a barbed wire fence. We're not permitted access. And there's hostility from passers-by.
If you look closely at a sign that was held by one of the Israeli protesters, then you will see that it speaks to the recent killing of a Palestinian man.
Now see what it says? One died after they put the electric stick up his anus.
This is Zionism. This is Israel. This is where Palestinian men are routinely subjected to sexual torture,
Kilimanjaro, big up yourself.
Freezing conditions, kicks or strikes to the genitals, along with threats of rape and sodomization, and actual cases of rape and sodomization. It's also important to recognize that an overwhelming majority of male Palestinian detainees who languish in Israeli military detention centers are held without charge or trial. In other words, they are hostages, no different to the hostages held by Hamas in Gaza, although Israel is holding nearly 40 times as many. But, as I mentioned at the top of this episode, Israel has become a safe haven for pedophiles, which is why nobody should be surprised that Palestinian children are also subjected to rape and sexual assault, with one Israeli human rights group reporting that 69% of detained Palestinian children are stripped naked, while another group found that more than 40% of children are sexually assaulted in one way or another. Now, I want you to think about that for a moment. Imagine your child being kidnapped by foreign soldiers from your home in the middle of the night.
Look at this here. Look how they're handling these kids.
And assaulted in front of
Look how they're handling these kids.
you'd go after those
These are
soldiers with
kids.
vengeance.
Look at them.
Here's what a former US State Department official had to say about Israel raping teenage boys as young as 13.
You mentioned sexual violence. I was part of the human rights vetting process for arms going to Israel, and a charity called Defense of Children International Palestine drew our attention at the State Department to the sexual assault, actually the rape, of a 13-year-old boy that occurred in an Israeli prison in the Mosque Bia in Jerusalem. We examined these allegations. We believed they were credible. We put them to the government of Israel. And you know what happened the next day? The IDF went into the DCIP offices and removed all their computers and declared them a terrorist entity.
During a recent discussion about Gaza on TRT World, I said that Zionism has more in common with white supremacy and neo-Nazi beliefs than it does with the Jewish religion. These racist attitudes also drive Israel to commit acts of sexual violence against non-white Jews. In 2018, I wrote about how Ethiopian Jews are ruining the Zionist dream by diluting Israel's white European population. To quell this demographic change, the Israeli government carried out forced sterilizations on thousands of Ethiopian Jewish women, which is exactly the kind of evil that Nazis pulled off in the 1930s. It's what China is doing to Uyghur women in Xinjiang today, and this level of evil the Jewish state is willing to stoop to, even against Jewish people with the wrong skin color. As you can see, Zionism and sexual violence are inextricably linked. Please also see our recent episode in which we reveal how Israel used pornography as a weapon against Palestinian boys. Obviously, you will never see these reports in the mainstream media, which is why our show is dedicated to exposing the ugly truth about Israel and the Zionist ideology. Because once you understand that, then you will realize how this criminal enterprise can never be normalized and must always be opposed. But that's my time for today. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we kindly ask you to please support our effort to expose and confront injustices in the Muslim world by becoming a member of this show at patreon.com/CJ Werleman. We can't produce, sustain and grow this show without your help, and we offer exclusive benefits to those who do.
That is it
But for
right
now,
there,
good
people.
night, good morning, wherever you are, and stay blessed.
See, I just like to highlight, you know, they fuckery, like how they like to highlight our shit, you know what I mean? So whenever I get the chance, I do that, highlight they shit up too. You know? So what's good, peoples? What's good, Moko? Moko like she gone. Kilimanjaro, where I gone? We there, Nick, you there? We in the building right now. So what's good, yo? Huh? What's really good? How y'all doing out there? Yeah, you know they still got the Lion Squad channel there. Fucked up right now. You know? So we doing a little.
Tell you how we really feel. Tell you what kind of hell we've been catching, and let you know if you shouldn't have if you don't clean up your house. If you're not ready to clean up your house, you shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down. Now, I'm not trying to burn down anybody's house. But what Malcolm is talking about is frank speech. That we have to confront each other honestly. One of the most exhausting things I have to do is to convince my fellow white citizens of what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Every time
we
have to engage in this haunting public ritual of grieving in public, we gotta convince you that it happened. What does it mean that Diamond Reynolds' 4-year-old baby had to muster the resources to comfort her mother in that moment? I'm here, Mama. I'm here with you. What does it mean that Alton Sterling's 15-year-old baby crying, weeping, because he lost his father, wouldn't see him again? What does it mean that if it wasn't for the footage around Walter Scott, that police officer would still be walking the streets? What does it mean that I have to tell my child, right, the story of how to interact with the police because I want him to come home?
That's real talk, man.
What does it mean that here I am, I've done everything right, I'm at the height of my profession, I'm the president of the American Academy of Religion. The day I got the call for that I won, my baby calls me from Brown to tell me that he's sitting on a bench doing an assignment and a police officer drives up, blocks his way out, comes out and says, who are you and why are you here? He says, I'm a Brown student just doing an assignment. The police officer hits him in the face with the flashlight, looks at his feet, looks at the bushes, and tells him the park closes at 9:30. And my son says, yes, sir, but it's only 6:30. And then his partner walks around the police cruiser and says to him, and both of them lean in with their hands on their weapon and say to him, the park closes at 9:30. And my son puts up his hands and says, we don't want any trouble. I could have lost my only child that day.
This is what black people have faced with.
Of what that means.
A lot of people don't want to hear this shit right here.
We're not going to fundamentally change,
you know,
unless we look ourselves squarely in the face. You learn race in Minneapolis by just simply driving around this community. It's in the very built environment. You don't have to be a bad person. It's how we are habituated as citizens of this country, a country that has been drenched
it's crazy when you try to
in the reality of white supremacy. We have to address it. We have to address it if we're going to get beyond it.
We're the ones
so what I call for is a revolution of value.
To convince everybody that these things are happening. No one wants to see it.
By changing our demand of government. We need to change our view of black people by changing our view of white people, and only white people can do
Yvonne, big up yourself,
Yvonne. And we need to change what ultimately matters to us. If we have a society predicated upon greed and narcissism and selfishness, we will continue to produce the likes of Donald Trump. But it's in our hands. I refuse to dance the dance any longer. For my grandchildren who are not here, I refuse to try to make you feel comfortable.
You hear that? Huh? Y'all hear that? That's the whole gist of my fucking program. I refuse to try to make these people comfortable. You see? I hear what the man's saying. Huh? It's real talk right there.
Because I know of a...
And the rest of us, we need to get that same attitude. The time is at hand, people. Whether we know it or not. The time is at hand. Just look around you. You know, scroll the internet. Just check out some of these current events that's happening. Right? And you'll see. You'll see. These scripture words, Bible verses and all this stuff, they coming to pass. Things that they saying was going to happen in around them times, they're happening. The Great Awakening is happening. You know, people are waking up. I don't know what happened. How the hell we went to sleep like that? You know, I don't know how the hell they put us to sleep like that. But I can see the awakening happening. You know, I can see young people too. You know, even of recently, you know, getting real interest in this new discovery of all this, or not discovery, because they've been discovered a long time ago, but you know, the revealing of, you know, these discoveries that they've been keeping hidden from us for centuries, only so they can keep us in the blind state of mind, you know. So I'm seeing it slowly but surely. I'm seeing it unfolding in front of my very eyes. You know, there are a lot of people reacting to things differently. You know, a lot of people on the internet, a lot of people coming out with things, you know.
Man who was crucified on Calvary, who refused to become adjusted to injustice. What does it mean to bear witness to the virtues of generosity and humility and justice in this moment. It will require something monumental of us, something profound. Value gap, racial habits, fear requires of us a commitment to democracy. In this sense, we have to become the people that democracy requires of us. That means we have to reject the idea that this is God's gift to the world, that is, America is the shining city on the hill. That rigs the argument. No, we need to look ourselves squarely in the face, in great pain and terror, and do the work of actually achieving our country. I pray that we do so, because if we don't, we will certainly see the fire.
We will certainly see the fire, people. You know, right now I'm just trying to spend a little time because, you know, as much as they highlight our ills, you know, like we the worst thing on the planet Earth, you know, and, you know, especially when they get a situation like a P. Diddy situation, I mean, they run it into the goddamn ground to make it look like we are the worst type of people on planet Earth. You know what I'm saying? They're using this P. Diddy situation right now to make every black man look like he's got some kind of gay, faggot tendency. You know what I mean? I mean, just look at what they're doing. They're throwing the name of every damn black man you know and might look up to into the fray of this thing here. You know, you could have just met P. Diddy out in the public and shook his hand one time and they snapped a picture of that. They finding some way to dirty your name up in all the mess that's going on surrounding the brother P. Diddy. You know, and I really, you know, y'all see me come out here every day on it like this. The reason is because I feel it's needed. And I feel if some of us don't do something like this, it won't stop from happening. And we're going to sit back and watch these neoconservative and token blacks, you know, just bury our champions who they tend to disagree with, you know, and using these tactics that is designed for this purpose, and it's only designed to be used against our kind. They don't use these tactics against their own kind when they find out that their own kind is carrying on with these type of behaviors. You know, they've made this P. Diddy party thing the biggest disgraceful thing that, you know, we can acknowledge of recent, while they have a whole country in the name of Jews in Israel that's carrying off worse act than you can ever find at a Diddy party. Recently, these are recent stuff, yet and still you hear nothing of it. You know, you might get lucky and run into one brave soul who was brave enough to log a report on the internet about it. Yet you hear nothing about it. I mean, something like that should be the biggest news on the net right now, you know, of the behavior that these people are displaying. But nah. Connor, Broccoli, Donald, Dr. McDonald's, 5-string, Neil. Walk in the spirit, not in the flesh. You know, it's a long ass name, Connor, Broccoli. Yeah, you know what I mean? So,
to work. But something valued more than others, and this belief isn't the possession of loud racists, people running around with white sheets over their heads or swastikas tattooed on parts of their body. Rather, this belief animates our social practices, our political arrangements, and our economic realities. This belief that white people matter more than others distorts our characters and deform our democracy.
That's very important. Because a lot of us don't not realizing is that in our everyday coming and going, in our outlook on society and the world in general, when we wake in the morning and prepare ourselves and move out into the world, we're not realizing that's the type of movements that we're making. That in all our movements, everything we do in our minds subliminally, everything white folks do is far more important than anything that we have to do. And this is the way we carry ourselves day to day, unconsciously. If white folks don't approve of it, it don't get green light. If white folks don't say it's so, it don't happen. We have to sit and wait on their approval on things. The bad thing now is we're actually sitting waiting on their approval of us. You know what I'm saying? Because it was all good just a year ago, when Diddy was in their approval. You would have never heard anything the likes of what you're hearing now. But now that he's out of their approval, they're putting it up on Front Street. Putting the things up on Front Street that they themselves encouraged him to do. They themselves egged him on and pointed the way for him to do. Put him in position to do these things. Right? And get away with it for so long. Now that they're claiming that it's illegal. Which, as I say, is just a bunch of bullshit. Because I don't see, like I said, what's the difference between a Diddy party and what goes on at a lot of these raunchy hip-hop video sets, or what goes on a pornography movie set. What's the difference? You have hired sexual workers flown in from all parts of the country to perform a duty. You don't hear anything about any underage or any kidnapped ones on the set. And you can best believe on those sets, likewise, there's plenty of drugs and alcohol to get these girls in the mood. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes a girl go to work and she's just not in the mood today to put up with the bullshit. So what she do? She take a little helpmeet, something to help get her nerves together, calm her down maybe. You know what I'm saying? And relax her so she can better take on the job that's ahead of her. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure every one of those actors on that set went to that studio knowing perfectly well the atmosphere and what was taking place. Now, which one of you out there thinks now that there were people who were invites? Because to go to a Diddy party, you have to be invited. You have to be invited. You can't just walk in off the streets. You must be invited. Right? And to be invited, you must be in some type of favor with Diddy ahead of time. So ahead of time, you would have had to befriend Diddy or suck up to him to get invited to his party. Have y'all seen the logic that I'm coming around to, people? You know what I'm saying? Just picture that. And to perform such acts, you have to be a well-thinking adult. You understand? So I don't know how is it that they have it now that in order for you to get invited to a Diddy party, you had to be smart enough to be able to use your brain to get to whoever you need to get to convince Diddy to give you an invitation. You were smart enough to do that. But all of a sudden you wasn't smart enough now to at the party, once the party's on the way, you wasn't smart enough to know that this is cocaine. And I ain't a cocaine addict, so I ain't gonna take it. No. You abandoned all your intelligence once you saw the cocaine and said, this is cocaine, and the sight of it has just made me totally stupid. You know? So I'm going to take it. Nah, that's not what happened at all. We know that for sure. We know that for sure. That's not what happened. All of you right now, all of them broads who you see, those lawyers went out and found. Lawyers, for the most part, went out and dug most of those people up and just put them together and say, come on, now is the time. The fruits is ripe for the picking. So if you ever had any contact with P. Diddy over the years, now is the time for you to twist your story a little bit and possibly, you know, get a bag off of this thing here. That's all that we see happening. That's all that we see happening right now. And we need to be careful. And that's why I'm out here, you see me out here on a daily tip, making mention of it and trying to bring it to light to people. You dig? Because I know it can get worse than what you see. I know it can get worse. I know the next person we can see on some bullshit could be Vybz Kartel. Defending himself, trying to defend himself on his bullshit here. With some girl just bring up some charges talking about she was coerced and she was, you know, in fear and what have you. You know, just making up any type of stories on any one of you. After, as an adult, they made the decision to make themselves, to degrade themselves in your presence, right? Because they thought that is the way to be in order to be in this company right here, right? And now years later, looking back, realizing that for all the degrading that they have done for themselves, they have nothing to show for it. And so they come up with the bright idea, let's see what we can do to get the bag. Diddy is down, perfect time to kick him. And that's what we see happening. A lot of kicking going on. You heard? That's what we see happening. You know? And it's only our flaws and our faults that gets highlighted in this manner. When they behave like this, right, which they started this shit out, you don't see none of this bullshit about it. You know, I've yet to see a Photoshop picture with Hugh Hefner and any of those thousands of young girls that he has exploited. over the decades that he was alive and in business for. The Playboy Bunny symbol is shown and worn around the world with reverence in this day and time. Reverence for the same exact behavior that they now have P. Diddy in custody for. And we call this justice, we call this fear. Shit like this only happened to black people, only happened to us. From the beginning of time, you go back, you will only see shit like this happening to us and us alone. You heard? If you're new to the program, subscribe. We want to get to about 200 subscribers at least right now. We need to get to 1,000 subscribers, but you know. So subscribe to the program, double tap the screen. It helps the channel, it helps the program. You know, because we trying to get these messages out there the real way. You know, Yvonne, Nick, we ain't gonna stay too long out here. You know, I just wanted to come out here and just put something out there in the meantime, in between time, let the people know I'm still here. We're still active. You know, and as you know, I don't want to make this too long. So I think enough is said on this one. I'm gonna catch up with y'all a little later on. I'm gonna go live again. You know, in the meantime, in between time, you can catch me possibly on TikTok. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. If you want to know what this is about, rewind the video, rewatch this, because I think it's important that we hear messages like these and pass them on as black folks. And if you're black out there and you're listening up, right? Listen up. It is the time of the great awakening right now. Play your part, black folks. Play your part. Don't sit on your hands and twirling your thumbs. You know what I mean? It's happening right in front of your very eyes. But what's happening, they're using stuff like the Diddy situation to keep you distracted. Keep you distracted from recognizing and realizing the time is at hand. The great awakening is at hand. You know, a lot of secrets, hidden knowledge, hidden truth that's been hidden for centuries is suddenly being revealed nowadays. Get at these new revelations in a hurry before they start misinterpreting them and you don't even get the opportunity to see what's what. By the time you get to it, they done watered it down and polluted it, that you don't know what the hell is truth or not. You know, recognize your awakening, black folks. Recognize that it's happening right now, young people. Older folks, join with them young peoples. Join with them. You know, give them the guidance that they need. Now is the time. Give them the guidance that these young folks need to carry on this fight, to carry on this battle. Because the future is in their hands. Our future lies in the hands of these young people. So we have to make sure they are holding the correct tools for the job in their hands. Lion Squad, we out.